My name is Amanda.
And I'm Kristin.
And we are the Exorcisters. So sit back, relax, and let's get creepy. Happy birthday to you.
Yay!
Happy birthday to you.
Yay!
You are 30.
Oh, you're calling me out now, huh?
30 today.
I am. I am 30 today.
On the plus side, we will be spending it at the beach.
Damn straight. So we obviously are recording this ahead of time because right now we are on the beach in Rockport, Texas.
Yes. With an old friend that moved away, which
and we're
is
just
going to be
getting very drunk. And it's going to be fucking great.
Yes.
So excited.
We're sitting on the beach in December with nobody there because it's not like peak season.
Yes.
It's going to be awesome. Or is awesome, hopefully, right now.
Let's hope.
So for our birthdays, as you know from back my birthday in November, we pick the movie that we want to do the most, whether it be because we absolutely fucking adore it, it's our favorite, or maybe in the future because we hate it so much. But today, in episode 58, we are going to be discussing your pick, which is from 2012, and it is Cabin in the Woods.
Yes, which is not only my favorite horror movie, but my favorite movie of all time. I can watch this movie 20 times in a day and I wouldn't get bored.
You'd be so happy.
I fucking love this movie. Joss Whedon is amazing in everything he does.
I agree. Well, first of all, tell them how, like, when you first saw it, what your thoughts were. Do you remember?
So it was actually the coolest fucking thing. I had never seen a trailer for it. I knew nothing about it other than it was Joss Whedon's, and I love him so much. I will watch anything he does. I don't even like the Avengers. Watched it for him because he's so amazing. So I had no idea what it was about other than it was a horror movie that Joss Whedon did. So it was actually at the Dollar Theater here, and Connor and I were like, let's just go check it out. I mean, it's at the Dollar Theater. If it is bad, we didn't pay very much for it. And I was in awe from the beginning. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
The fact that Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard came up with this idea. And they did this in 3 days. They came up with this script. They wrote the whole thing. And it's so new. It's such a new idea and ingenious to come up with something like this.
It gives every single horror movie cliche a reason. Like a rhyme and a reason.
Yes. And an ancient reason. Like, I am the biggest history buff on the planet, all the way back to ancient things. Yeah. I am in love with ancient Egypt. So for them to come up with something that might have something to do with the Titans and the Greek gods and shit like that, and that's the reason horror movies even exist, blew my mind in the best way.
So it wasn't like one of those that had to grow on you. You were sold from the beginning.
Not at all. I fucking love that movie. I think I saw it twice in the Dollar Theater when I could, and as soon as it came out, I had it on all medias I could. I just bought it recently on Blu-ray when I finally found it, and it was like I saw it sitting there and I was like, I have to have it. I have to. Yeah.
It's part of you now.
Yes.
And I really love this movie too. This is not one where I really differentiate from your opinion very much. I was thinking about it when I was watching it. Cannot tell you when I saw this movie. I don't remember seeing it in theaters. I think I just saw it on a fluke almost. Like it was just like on a streaming service, and whoever I was with at the time, we just watched it. And what I love is that it takes itself seriously, but not at all.
Exactly. Like it's a funny horror movie, but it's not
comedy,
but it's not like Scary Movie where it makes fun of itself.
No.
There's a reason for all of its laughter.
Exactly. And it's also got some good scares. Like, there are so many parts where you're, like, in the moment and you're like, this is a horror movie. And then you're in a different moment and you're like, what the fuck is this? And you're in a different moment. And it's a comedy. It's like...
And there's so much depth to it. I could watch this a billion times and not get everything in it.
Yeah,
I just watched it again and found more stuff on it. And then I found more trivia on it. And I can't believe they only created this in 3 days. How? These minds are fascinating to me.
So creative.
I would kill to meet Joss Whedon. But I think I would just trip over myself and be like, hi.
You do Cabin in the Woods?
Exactly. Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Oh my god, I love you.
Yeah.
And then I'd pass out.
Did your love for him start with Buffy?
Yes, it definitely did. I saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer randomly. I didn't start from the beginning. I saw like a random episode in season 4 and I was hooked from there. And as soon as I knew Joss Whedon as a writer and stuff, he wrote episodes of Roseanne and I can just tell. I'm like, that was a Joss episode. And I just adore everything he does. Yeah. He's so amazing to me.
Yeah.
How smart he is.
Yep. Anytime I see him or like J.J. Abrams or like, you know, those big names, I'm like, all right, we're going to go see it just to see how it is.
I was so happy, so proud of him because us nerds, we know Joss Whedon because of Buffy. But for him to become so mainstream and do the Avengers, I was so proud of him. I mean, I didn't personally like...
Well, it's not your genre.
Exactly.
It's not your type of movie.
Exactly. I don't like superhero movies, but his writing was still great.
Oh, yeah.
He did amazing.
There's a reason that it's the most renowned superhero franchise in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what's cool is, you know, it's not your conventional horror movie, but it's got an insane amount of blood. Like an obscene amount of blood and killing.
Yes.
And it's so fun to watch. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you really should just stop listening and go watch it.
Please stop listening because there are so many spoilers.
Spoilers, and also the walkthrough doesn't really make a ton of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't do it justice.
Cutting around is really weird. Because there's this company or institution or group that's basically puppeteering, is what they say a lot in the movies. These friends going to... It's called... Cabin in the Woods because there are so many horror movies about cabins in the woods.
Yes.
The biggest play on this one is The Evil Dead from 1980, I want to say 83.
There are so many horror movies though that are in this. It's not just The Evil Dead.
No. That's just like their biggest homage to the most in your face at least.
Yes. Mostly because of the cabin.
Exactly. And I love the opening because they're just like two guys on a cart talking, going through the tunnels of their work. And then all of a sudden you get this in your face, the cabin in the woods. So they don't make fun of horror. I think they're very respectful because I think that they like horror or horror themes.
Love horror. Joss Whedon is the biggest horror nerd. Loves horror. So the fact that he did this was all an homage to everything he loves. Yeah,
and that's exactly what it feels like. It's like that in your face, all of a sudden you have like the cabin in the woods and there's scream sound and it kind of makes you jump. And these friends are literally, there's the virgin, the athlete, the stoner, which is kind of like the idiot, you know.
Well, even before that, when you see the guys just walking down the hallway in these suits and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? So you see credits that are all like ancient stuff. You see like ancient Egypt, and you see Mesopotamia and Aztecs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you see blood going over it, by the way, with chocolate. But then you see these guys in suits right afterwards, and that was purely to make people in the audience go, did I walk into the wrong movie?
Yeah, it is super weird. Actually, kind of the whole time you're like, what the fuck is this? You can't figure it out. It's like,
purpose.
Is it a reality show that these kids... Because like in one of the Halloweens, they're doing a reality show, and it's just very... It's all orchestrated by this company or organization that needs to give sacrifices to these ancient gods.
Yes.
And to do that, they have all over the world, this organization is connected, and they need at least one ritual to satisfy these ancient gods and keep them at bay.
Right.
Because they're basically in slumber and they just need to be, honestly, they need to be fed.
Yeah.
And then they hibernate.
Which is ancient stuff. That's how you have sacrifices.
Exactly. They have to be satisfied. And so you don't know that right off the bat. That's what you find out towards the end. But you've got this whole organization. They're taking bets on which monster is going to be chosen to kill the kids.
Yes.
And they are joking about it because they kind of have to in their line of work, if you will.
You're watching these people get killed every single year, we assume. They do this thing.
And they set it up all year long.
Yeah.
It has to be perfect.
And you see them set these kids up, like they give this girl hair dye that makes her dumber and stuff like that. So they watch them for a while. So you can't tell me they don't have at least a little empathy towards these people as people, and not just the virgin, the fool, the scholar.
And there are little Easter eggs, if you will, throughout about how all these people came to be. And like Kurt, who is actually played by Chris Hemsworth, which is pretty cool, who's Thor in Avengers, so they know each other.
He actually auditioned for that during this movie. While he was filming this movie.
That's cool. So they had kind of a repertoire there.
Yes.
He's like, oh, let's go to my cousin's cabin. And then later, they're like, he doesn't even have a cousin.
Yes.
Like, all these things, they've been pulling these strings, maybe for years, to groom these people to be ready to go to this cabin to their death.
For them to know that the kid who's the scholar has learned Latin in the 10th grade, for them to even know that he's that smart is fascinating. They studied these people.
Yeah, and that's not something that the movie just comes out and like tells you. It's kind of stuff you've here, and you're kind of putting pieces together the whole time.
That's why I love Joss Whedon stuff, is because
Yeah.
all of it, he doesn't tell you stuff just straight out.
It's like stuff you figure out.
Yes.
And sometimes even after multiple watches.
Yes.
I mean, the first time I watched this, I absolutely adored it. But like, until we watched it recently, and I watched it on my own recently, I wasn't putting together, you know, the hair dye. And then one of the very first scenes, this blonde girl's like, I'm a blonde now, because they needed like a dumb blonde whore.
Yes, exactly.
And so they had to dumb her down, dye her hair blonde, make her more slutty, if you will.
Yes.
Because she had to die first. And they have to go specifically in this order that horror movies always tend to go in, of who dies.
Yes.
It's always a death scene during sex. Like,
yes.
you know, and so...
whore is the one who dies first.
Exactly.
And they comment it throughout. They have the guy at the gas station who even says, that whore, and then you hear it later on and you're like, he was fucking calling her out for not being a whore, but being the whore that they're sacrificing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even on their way to the cabin, they stop by a gas station. It's kind of like very the Texas Chainsaw Massacre-y. There's a creepy dude telling them, oh, you shouldn't be going up there.
Also, don't just walk into somebody's random fucking gas station.
Right.
Can't be that smart.
Right, exactly. So, it's, again, this movie, it's like, in my head, there are so many different things going on. It's really difficult to, like,
yes.
explain. So, I think less of a walkthrough and more of just like a points that we enjoyed, you know, because it's hard. What is even the premise? So this organization needs to sacrifice people in order to keep the gods at bay.
Yes.
But they still have free will. It could fail. Like it shows a ritual of children in Japan winning against this evil spirit, and that failed, and the one in Stockholm failed. You hear of all these failures. So the Americans have to do it right, or the whole world's going to suffer.
Right.
So now we have these kids in this cabin, or these 20-somethings, these college kids in this cabin, and the fate of the world rests on them dying in the correct order.
Yes.
And you get some cool throwbacks to horror. If you pay attention, there are horror Easter eggs. Everywhere. That's what this whole movie is, a horror Easter egg. The entire thing. And so if you're paying attention, you could be like, that's the Evil Dead. That's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's Hellraiser.
It's a love story to horror movies.
Exactly.
And that's why I love it.
Yeah, and it gives you all of the reasons why people do stupid things in horror movies to, like, help you make sense of it. It
answers it for you. Exactly. Why did that person drop their fucking weapon? Why would they do that? Well, it tells you.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's this cellar in this cabin, and it just flies open.
Which is also something that happens in The Evil Dead.
Exactly. So they go down there, and basically in this cellar, it's like a treasure chest of shit to unlock.
And the coolest part, so this is just some background information. So Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon are like best friends, which is the coolest part, because I'm like, Amanda, let's create this movie.
Yeah.
But
we would be much richer than we are now.
So Joss Whedon, he really wanted to direct this to begin with, and it just didn't happen. So he let Drew Goddard direct it. This was his directorial debut. And he wanted to buy everything that was down there, and he wanted it to be real.
Like authentically antique and all that.
There's like a fortune teller machine, and that thing was like $5,000 that he tracked down, and everyone was telling him, no, it's too expensive, we're not going to get it.
Just make a prop.
We're not going to use it anyway. Exactly. Yeah. And he went over to Joss, and Joss is like, fucking buy it. Why is this even a thing?
Yeah. Do whatever you want.
Yes.
And so basically the point is they still have to have some level of free will, even though they're basically in a trap. Like, I don't mean trap house, like, you know, trapped in this house of horrors, basically.
But they have to choose.
There's like a Necronomicon from like the Evil Dead. There's a box like in Hellraiser, or it's like a sphere in this one. I think it's a little different. Everything's a variant on something. Actually, if you just kind of go through this scene slowly and look around, there's so much stuff from other horror movies.
Yes.
But basically they read this part from this diary, and there's a part in Latin they read out loud, just like in Evil Dead. And it brings forth these, what do they call them?
The redneck zombie torture family.
Redneck zombie torture family. This family. The Buckners. Yeah, they pop out of the ground, and everyone's like, the Buckners! Maintenance wins! Because they're all guessing which, there's like...
The Buckners pull a W!
Yeah. Mermaid, or a mermaid.
They're all placing bets on who's gonna fucking be the one to kill them.
Yeah. Demons. Vampires. Like every single thing you can think of that's ever been in a horror movie is on their whiteboard, and they take bets on what these kids are gonna, what horror these kids are gonna unleash.
And there's even stuff that they have that's not even on the whiteboard.
Exactly.
Those are just, because you hear them saying, I don't even know if we have this. Well, zoology says we do. So they probably only wrote the stuff down that people actually voted for.
Yeah.
So there's so much stuff we don't even know about that are in these cells.
My favorite scene is towards the end of this movie when you see all of the horrors in their cubes. Yes. So basically, they unleash these redneck zombies and they come after them. And it's interesting because the whole time it really reminds me of in the Hunger Games where they have, what's he called? Like the Game Master, or you know what I'm talking about.
The Game Maker?
The Game Maker, yes. That's exactly what this is. They're watching this field, basically, this play arena that they can manipulate to however they want.
Citizen and Hadley are the head of this, and they have all these departments, like the chem department and stuff like that, that help.
Electrical, maintenance.
That help put all this together. All these puppeteers to kill these kids the right way.
Exactly. Like there's a scene where somebody was supposed to blow the tunnel out so they couldn't escape, and something happened in electrical and they had to fix it quickly or else the kids were going to escape, and they had, you know.
And it's so cool seeing the polarity of that, where you have this huge explosion of the tunnel and all you see is this little zap of him hitting it with the cord.
Yes, exactly. And so it's the demise of these kids starts because Kurt and the dumb blonde whore, which is his girlfriend, unfortunately, and you know that these kids are not these stereotypes necessarily, like in their lives.
This is not like regular movies where you don't care about these characters. You actually do care about these characters.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, and they go out into the woods and he like wants to have sex with her because that's what they need them to do.
Yes.
But she's like, I'm kind of cold, and they're like, release pheromones. We got to have them have sex. So they release pheromones from the ground.
They also up the temperature, which I want to comment. Men are so stupid. That is not. She didn't want to have sex out in the woods. She was saying that she was cold as an excuse to not do that.
Yeah,
and they're like, raise the temperature.
It's 75
Jesus
now.
Christ.
Yeah, so they raise the temperature, and also she's just being catty, like, no, come get me,
exactly.
You know? And it also is like, well, that's why horror movies are always foggy.
Yes.
Because they're releasing these, it looks like fog, and they're like pheromones to get these kids to do exactly what they want them to do, these different chemicals that they're, so they smell it, and they're like, oh yeah, let's have sex.
Exactly.
And then they start doing it, and then the killing starts. Which, in the order it should.
Yes, which they even comment, there's a new security guy, and he's like, do we really need to be watching this right now because they need to see boobs and stuff? And they comment, they're like, we're not the only ones watching. Like, this is a horror movie that people are watching, that they are making right now. So it's basically a snuff film. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Basically answers why some things happen in every single horror movie. Because we, as the audience, want to see boobs.
Or the ancient ones want to see boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kurt actually runs back into the house. So the slut, quote unquote, I'm not calling her that, that's what the movie is, dies first. And then you see something on this wall that's carved into this very voluptuous female filled with blood. And you're like, okay.
And they're sad for her.
Yes.
That they had to do that.
Every time someone dies, they're like, they say like a little like homage to them. Like, thank you for your sacrifice, basically. Yeah. And Kurt runs back to the cabin and, you know, tells everybody we're being chased. She just got killed. Her name was Jules. She's dead now. And so people start freaking out. Why?
Because the best part is when she's like, I'm not leaving here without Jules. And then she opens it and Jules' head gets thrown at her.
She's like, we're leaving here without Jules.
That's the great horror comedy that I love.
Yeah.
That it could make you scream or freak out, but it makes you laugh.
Exactly. And so they decide to start like barricading up the cabin, and Kurt's like, they're all like, we stick together no matter what.
Pheromones.
Yeah. And they're like, oh no, you fucking don't. They press a button.
Yes.
And Kurt smells something and he's like, we gotta split up. And you're like, bitch, but that explains why people, it's supposed to explain why people in horror movies are like, let's split up and get picked off one by one.
The whole time you have this character Marty, and he's the best part of this whole
He's smoking weed the whole time.
The whole fucking time. And even as Kurt's doing that, we gotta split up. Yeah, that's the smart move. He's over there going, what? It is?
I mean, even when he was down in the cellar, he was like, don't fucking read that. Don't fucking read that.
I'm drawing a line in the sand. Don't read the fucking Latin. Yes, because that's what we're doing as an audience. Don't read the fucking Latin. We've said that in how many horror movies?
And they gave us that character in Marty.
Yes.
Which most horror movies don't do.
Yes.
They're like, yeah, read the Latin.
Yes, they give us the you and I of going, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you going in the room? Turn on the fucking light. That's Marty.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's the best.
Yeah, he is. And he's so funny, too. He's good comedic relief. And you actually think that he dies early.
Yes.
Early-ish.
Because one of the Buckners pulls him out of a window as...
With a bear trap, too, right? Oh, no, just yanks him.
Just yanks him as he's finding the cameras from the puppeteers that are watching them.
Which he's thought the whole time.
Yeah, because you can hear him go, read it, or things like that. Yeah. Or one of them goes, go for a walk.
Yeah.
And he's like panicking because
like, the fuck is that?
Because other people might think it's subliminal, but he's too drugged on his own to be drugged up enough on their drugs that it's not subliminal to him. He's fucking hearing it going, what the fuck was that shit? And it's great.
I think it'd be more horrifying to be him
than
one that
anyone else is hearing it. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
your friends are acting so weird and you're like...
Yeah, and so he gets got, and then he's just off screen for a long time. So then...
As he tries to save himself with his bong.
Yeah. So now you've got Kurt, who lost his girlfriend. He's the athlete. You've got Holden, who is the scholar. And then you've got Dana, who is basically the virgin. And you find out later she's not like a virgin, but they work with what they got. She's like the most innocent out of all of these.
Yes. Which is cool because you see that in other horror movies. I've commented on it in Friday the 13th before. Our final girl, who's supposed to be the virgin archetype, she's not even a virgin.
She's just the most innocent.
She drinks, she smokes weed, she plays naked sex games, and she still...
But she's
wins.
Like the most pure
because they've got
out of all the levels.
That's Dana.
Exactly. And so they're like, okay, we're going to get out of here. So they get in the camper and they drive. And this is when the facility starts freaking out because they couldn't blow the tunnel. Something happened. So if these kids leave, all of humanity dies.
Yes.
And they say later in a painful, horrible, horrible way, these gods rise. And because they didn't get their sacrifice, they take all of humanity out. Which is really dramatic. Just take like 5.
You didn't get your one fucking person.
And so they do kind of at the last minute get the tunnel to blow. And these kids, like, you know, Marty's not with them anymore. So he would have been the one being like, see, they blew the tunnel. That was them. Kurt and Dana, and they're just kind of like, what the fuck? Why is this happening to us?
Dana figures it out pretty fast, though.
Because Dana was listening.
Yeah.
Dana has always kind of been the character that's like, I'll kind of go with everybody else, but also, like, I'm kind of weirded out. And Marty has been going off the whole time about puppeteers, and so she has been listening. Get me off the fucking
grid, and chips in our kids' heads so they don't get lost. I fucking love Marty. Everything he says is correct through whole fucking movie. You just gotta watch him and you know the movie.
Exactly.
It's great.
Yeah. And so Kurt's got this like dirt bike basically, and he's gonna, there's a cliff on the other side too. He's gonna jump from one side to the other and go get them help. And when he's in the air doing that jump, he hits like this invisible force field.
And it's fucking hilarious.
And he just falls all the way down. It's just so jarring. You're like, oh!
These are really good deaths. They're not supposed to be funny. I laugh because I love horror. And it's funny that way.
Yeah. Well, and it was also just like, you're like, this really dramatic music, and he's making this jump, and it's slow-mo. Like, yeah, you're like, oof.
He ain't gonna make it.
Like a bug on a windshield. And then that's when they're like, what the fuck did he hit? Holden's like freaking out, and Dana's just like, Marty was right. Marty was right.
Puppeteers.
Yep. And then there's the
Pop-Tarts?
Pop-Tarts. If you know, you know. And then there's this scene, which is very, like, it's in Child's Play and, like, a million other horror movies, Halloween even, where they're in the camper and one of the Buckners pops out and fucks shit up, and the RV goes into the water.
Yeah.
So Holden is fucked. He's dead.
Dude.
He gets it through the throat. Yeah. And so Dana is in the RV, still trying to survive, but it's filling up with water because it went into a lake or a pond or whatever that body of water is when they were driving back. And now the facility has started to celebrate.
Yes, because they won.
Dana, you find out her death, like they say, she's the virgin. She's optional. That's just
she's
like
our final girl.
Yeah.
We don't always have a death of a final girl.
Yeah. And they're rooting for her. They're like, good for her, you know. But what they don't know is that one of them isn't actually dead because one of the Buckners comes for Dana and she is struggling with him. And then Marty comes back and fucks him up. And you find out that Marty has gone into the grave that the Buckners busted out of and found the facility, the entrance to the facility.
Which is another horror trope. I mean, come on. As horror people, we know if you don't see a death on screen, they're not dead. They're going to come back here in a little bit.
Yep.
And I love when they're celebrating that Dana's the last one and they've just won. It's just such a normal, I would say almost Christmas party type celebration. This guy's trying to ask this woman out. He's got ballet tickets. They've got party music going on.
Tequila!
Tequila is my lady!
Yeah.
Which was improvised, by the way. But even Drew Goddard's like, I don't even know what that means, but they left it in.
It's what came to him.
It's fine. Exactly.
So they're celebrating, and then they see, actually, before even we see Marty, there's this red phone on the wall, and it rings, and everybody shuts the fuck up.
Yeah, it's like the president has a red phone.
Yeah, and basically whoever this person is, he or she is like, nope, you didn't get him. There's one alive.
Which one? The fool.
Yep. And so then Marty and Dana escape into this underground tunnel and they make it into the facility, which is where my favorite part of the movie starts. Yeah, all this other stuff has been great, but it is very, and they did this on purpose, very like horror movie, like yes, 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 with a few like what the fuck's thrown in that makes this facility a thing and part of this movie. So now you're in this facility and now you really get into the meat of this movie. So they get into this fucking elevator and they're lowered and it's glass, and all around them in other glass cubes are everything you've ever seen in a horror movie.
Yes.
There's Pinhead, or not Pinhead, but a version of Pinhead.
Fornicist, Lord of Pain.
Yes. There's a ballet dancer with no face, basically. Her face is just a bunch of teeth.
She's called the Sugar Plum Fairy.
There's a giant fucking tarantula.
There's ghosts. There's a werewolf. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And they're all like, it's basically like a zoo for like horror, paranormal, supernatural shit.
Yes.
And they keep them in these cubes to be unleashed on these rituals. And so there's a giant anaconda and a mermaid and zombies and even like a robot scorpion.
This one part has the Buffy geek in me just going crazy, because then I go into, this is Joss Whedon. Is this Joss Whedon's world? Does that mean Buffy is like collecting these things and giving it to them? Like, does she go somewhere? I did, because that would be my perfect world if she's like getting a werewolf and
feeding it to him.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
She's like, yeah, sure, I'll go catch this random creature for you, and here you go.
You made a bridge with Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Cabin in the Woods.
It was great.
And so they're freaking out, and she actually starts to get angry and screaming and like hitting at she's kind of done. She hits that point where most protagonists do, where they're like, fuck it, I'm gonna fuck shit up now.
Please kill me if you really want to fucking try.
Yep. And so they get down into, and everybody's freaking out because they have cameras everywhere. They know they're down there and they're going to figure this shit out. And they have this whole like SWAT team. But the person that is supposed to be getting them, I think a Buckner has gotten down there too.
A hand.
Oh, that's right.
Just the zombie hand.
A little hand.
Fucking zombie hand.
Scares him and they thwart him off. And they basically find the big red button when they're down there. And the SWAT team is coming, but before they can get him, they hide in this little booth. And they unleash...
Let's get this party started!
Yep. Every single cube comes down the elevator and opens up, and then it's a fucking bloodbath.
Yes.
And that's when you see all of these horror things. You get a version of an evil clown, kind of like Pennywise. You get... the zombies, you get the Buckners back, you get the dancing sugar plum fairy,
a unicorn, which is my favorite of all time. The fact that Joss Whedon created a unicorn that is scary and not magical and sweet and beautiful.
Yeah.
No, that thing's gonna fucking kill you.
Oh yeah, and it does. And you see that there are like these dragon things, and it's just like every horror you can imagine is coming out of these elevators, just one round at a time.
There's a tree in it that's, we know it as the molesting tree.
Right.
Drew Goddard originally asked for a rapey tree, and it got a little too rapey. And Drew looked at the props people and he went, "Thank you, you did what I asked, but can we less rapey that tree and make it a molesting?"
Let's knock the rape down to molest, please.
Which is
Thank you.
also from Evil Dead. Where she
What did he have?
gets...
Dick fingers, dick branches?
Jesus Christ. I don't know what it had. I'm scared to know what it had. I'm just picturing a tree. Sorry, I'm getting gruesome for a second. I'm just picturing a tree like coming up behind someone and just thrusting away. But that's also from Evil Dead because one of the girls gets raped
Would you
by
have
a
a little
tree.
baby Groot?
Holy fuck. We've put it all together. This is where Groot comes from.
That's so bad.
Mic drop, we're done.
And it was so, like, yes, it was very action-packed, but you also just want it to slow down because you're like, I want to see all this stuff.
I can't tell you how many times I've paused that movie to be like, okay, what's in there? Or when you get to the cameras again and you see what's going on everywhere, who's dying by what. Best.
Yeah. And so they're just, like, hunkering down, waiting for this to kind of, like, wean off a little bit and to
Maybe
disperse.
some of them go away.
Yeah. And so they do make it eventually around. And the two directors initially, they also get killed. One of them's like, man, I wanted the mermaid. And then he ends up getting killed by a mermaid.
That blood squirted for 9 fucking minutes. And they only got like a 10-second clip at the end of it.
Gross.
Can you imagine that? It just ruined the whole room.
It's done.
Yeah.
While they're making their way down, they do all go all the way down into this like quiet, almost stony kind of building, and they see
very ancient.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh shit, it's us!" all on the walls because they realize there's an athlete, a scholar. There's 5 of them, and they're like, essentially, maybe not 100% figuring out, but they're like, okay, so
Dana figures it out fucking fast.
Yeah, she does.
Even Marty, who has figured everything out along the way, he's like, what is this? And she goes, it's us. It's fucking us.
Exactly. And then fucking Sigourney Weaver comes in. And she's like, yes, it is. And she tells them that they have to do this to keep the ancients. And you can actually, like, hear the ancients right underneath
some,
them.
Like, stuff moving around. Like, it's all cloudy, so you don't see anything. But something's moving down there.
They're getting real antsy because they know they're not going to get their shit. And so Sigourney Weaver's character, she's kind of the head director here, which you can assume that was who was on the red phone. She tells them that all of humanity will be wiped out if the ancients rise, and it will be gruesome and painful for everyone.
Right.
And so basically she gives Dana the option to kill Marty, and if you kill Marty, all of humanity is saved.
Yes.
And she holds a gun up to him and she's like, I'm sorry, but it's every single human being on Earth.
Yeah.
Because he's going to die either way.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's like, I shoot you or you die in agony.
You can die with them or you can die for them.
Exactly.
Is what Sigourney Weaver says.
So while she's holding the gun to his head, a werewolf attacks her and throws everything into chaos again. And there's actually a ledge. They're standing in like a circular room, and if you get too close to the edge, you can fall into where the ancients are. Which Sigourney Weaver's character falls in there. You'd think they'd just be like, "Oh, here's our 4th person. We're good."
Okay,
but it's not part of the ritual.
I have a comment on that.
Yes.
All these people are fucking dying. All of them. There's not a fool in the bunch. Not a fucking idiot who smokes pot on the weekends. Nobody. Even... Okay, this is gonna be real mean. Even in maintenance. Nobody.
And she says that because that's what they say throughout the whole movie, not to insult maintenance people.
Yes, that's what they say. They're like, what do you want me to say? They're maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay, none of the maintenance crew is like a fucking pothead or just kind of little stupid. Nobody is a fool.
Well,
bullshit.
It's I guess it's the ritual. It didn't happen the way that it was supposed to happen.
I know, but also...
Marty is the fool.
That's my one problem with this movie, is a fool died. There's no way a fool didn't die in that whole place.
Yeah. And so they basically decide not to kill Marty, and they just sit there together and hold hands with the, walls crumbling around them. And then the end scene is just this giant hand that comes up out of the ground, and it's a giant god coming up to destroy everything.
Yes, and it was fucking great. It destroys the cabin.
Oh yeah, that's gone.
Yes.
And so are we, all of us.
It was a great movie.
That's how the world ended in 2012. Now we're just in like an alternate reality.
That was it. I mean, it was supposed to end in 2012.
Exactly.
So I've got, obviously, a lot of fucking trivia because I love this fucking movie. So bear with me, you guys. But if you're interested in this movie, I promise it's interesting. So Marty, in the very beginning, when you first meet him, he pulls up and he's driving the wrong way on a one-way street. And he parks his car and he leaves his window down, but he locks the fucking door. And he does that because that was actually a quirk. That's the same car that Drew Goddard drove in high school, and he had that same fucking quirk. He would lock his car, but leave the fucking window down. And Marty has this huge fucking bong.
That looks like a coffee mug.
Yes, it's fucking huge. And then it breaks down. He's even got a little handle on it that's the pipe and stuff like that. It's perfect. It looks exactly like a fucking coffee mug. That was a prototype that was real in real working order as a mug and a bong. And it cost $5,000 for them to make that prototype.
Jesus.
Yes. Marty, or as I know him, Topher. So anybody want to watch Dollhouse? Fucking do, please. That's another Joss Whedon one. It's great. And this actor is, I originally saw him in Dollhouse, and his name was Topher. So I know him as Marty, but I still go, that's Topher!
Yeah.
Okay, so Marty actually had to receive a 2-hour joint rolling lesson because he had no idea. He didn't smoke weed. He didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
They had to teach him all of that stuff. He is also the one who doesn't jump in the lake with all of the rest of his friends, which is because he was more ripped than the dudes in the lake.
Nice.
So that's why he's in such...
Marty's my type. Chris Hemsworth is nice, whatever, but...
Yes. That's why he's in such baggy clothing the whole time, is because he's fucking ripped.
Wait, I have to Google that. Damn, dude.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm sorry. Proceed. We had to pause because I had to Google him shirtless because it was really hard to picture. But yeah, okay, fair.
So, Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon, I've already said they're best friends, and they wrote this in 3 days. So what happened is they both had a couple of scripts that had failed on them recently, like a couple of failed projects that they tried to do movies or something on TV and just didn't work out for them. And they're like, fuck it. We're going to lock ourselves in a hotel room for 3 days, and we're writing this goddamn script. And they did it.
Good. And I'm so glad.
The Latin translation, if anybody is curious, is he gets part of it. So pain outlives the flesh. Pain raises the flesh. Pain ignites the spirit, is what it was when they said it.
Ew.
I love this movie. Once again, if anybody is a Buffy person, I'm just going to comment on the Buffy people in this and why I wanted to watch it. We have Tom Link, so he's the one that was with Maintenance, the intern. He was also in Buffy. And Amy Acker, so she's the chem department head. Yeah. She was on Angel for years. And then, once again, you have Marty that's from Dollhouse. Yeah. So, when this movie premiered, Drew Goddard was actually at one of them and spoke. And a fan afterwards asked him if there's going to be a sequel. And Drew Goddard just looked at him and goes, "Did you see the ending to my movie?" Which is fucking great. Like, the gods destroyed the whole fucking world. How would there be a fucking sequel?
We want to see how the gods destroy the whole fucking world. Which, honestly, though, that could keep it open-ended to, like, how can there possibly be a sequel to this horror movie where everyone dies? But then, just like Michael Myers and Jason...
It always comes back.
Yeah.
During the rampage, one of the monsters that's briefly visible is a Reaver, which, if anybody... Once again, I'm just talking about Joss Whedon again. Yeah. It's one of the villains on Firefly. So we actually get to see that because it was his.
Which people were so pissed when that was canceled after one season. I watched it. It was okay. I mean, it just wasn't my thing. I like Star Wars and sci-fi type things, but I don't anymore. But like back in early college, I smoked a fuck ton of weed because my boyfriend at the time did. And I was just like, okay, whatever. I saw all of Firefly High and I don't really remember any of it.
Yeah, I bet. So here is a list, if anybody is curious. I'm just going to read them off of everything that's on that board. All right? So this is what they could do. They could pick.
And people were betting on these. Like, ooh, it's like a baby pool. Like, when's the baby going to be due? But which horror are they going to unleash?
And they're betting money on it. So we have werewolf, which really quick, Sigourney Weaver wanted to do this because she wanted to be in a movie with a werewolf and she got her wish. That's cool. That's why she wanted to do this. Actually,
is that why the werewolf was the last monster?
Yeah, yes. She was so excited to be in a werewolf movie, and Jamie Lee Curtis was actually supposed to be it, but it just didn't align. So Sigourney Weaver was the next choice, and she was so excited. So, a werewolf, alien beast, mutants, wraiths, zombies, reptilius, clowns, witches, sexy witches.
Like the crab.
Yeah, exactly. Demons, Hell Lord, which I think that's Fornicus. Angry molesting tree, giant snake.
I think the tree would probably be like my last choice.
Yeah. Right? I want to know what the tree part was. Like, what was his little piece to pick in there? Maybe a phallic branch of some sort. Okay.
Ripping people in two.
Deadites, Mummy, The Bride, The Scarecrow Folk, Snowman, Dragon Bat, Vampires, Dismemberment Goblins, Sugar Plum Fairy, Merman, which would be kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like the merman and the unicorn that they chose to make them not magical.
Yeah, the merman thing would have been interesting because they would have had to get them into the water.
That's what I think of with all these monsters. Like, how would they have killed in that place?
Which their merman is it looks very similar to Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as pretty, but yeah.
Right.
The Reanimated, Unicorn, Huron, which, if anybody is curious, those are Native Americans. That's a Native American legend. Sasquatch, Wendigo, Yeti, they're all kind of the same thing-ish. Dolls, Zombie Redneck Torture Family, The Doctors, Jack-o'-lantern, Giant, Twins, and Kevin. And Kevin's basically supposed to be like a serial killer, like somebody very sweet and charismatic that you would want to go
is picking off one by one. Yeah.
Which might have been kind of cool.
Probably would have been less horrifying because you wouldn't have seen it coming.
I mean, I almost wish that they didn't destroy it because some of these monsters in a sequel would be kind of cool if we got to pick other things. Honestly, we got the most boring one, but whatever. I know it's not about that monster.
Yeah, this movie, like, we didn't even hardly scratch the surface because it's just so in depth and there are so many moving parts. And it really, you can't get a good cohesive look at it unless you're watching it. And even then, sometimes it takes like a couple times.
Yeah, more than once.
But it's totally worth it. Like, if you want to just watch a horror movie, it's still good as that. If you want to watch something that's deeper, that has a lot, like, more hidden meaning, it's got that. Like, it's so I can appreciate it from a lot of different angles.
I think when you and I first met and started talking about, do you like horror movies, the first thing I asked was, what do you think of Cabin in the Woods? Because if you don't like Cabin in the Woods, I'm sorry, you're not my friend.
Yeah.
Because how can you not?
I've always liked it.
It's amazing.
Yeah. You would have called me out, I think, if
I think I would have. I would have been like, why don't you like it? We're going to watch it again. You're going to like it, I promise.
You're going to try again. This is not a horror movie, but that's how I feel about Swiss Army Man.
Yeah.
I just think that it's such a deep movie that you can't watch it and just watch it. Like, you have to watch it over and over to really get all of the deeper meaning. And a lot of people think it's just this weird indie movie about this guy riding this dead body like a jet ski propelled by farts, when it's really just like a deep psychological, like, gripping tale of this really tragic life.
Yeah. I mean, this shows how deeply disturbed I am on my horror movies. I don't consider this a horror movie. Like, when we were talking about our favorite horror movie to do for our birthdays, I was like, does Cabin in the Woods count?
Yeah.
Of course it fucking counts. Like, it's about zombie people killing people, but I'm like,
at the very least, it's a movie about horror. It's a tribute to horror movies.
Yes, exactly. But I was also like, I don't feel like this is a horror movie. I could watch this movie and fall asleep and not even have a problem.
That's how I am with It, Chapter 1, obviously. Because I don't
not like
have
that
it
with you,
chapter
but
2
yeah,
yet.
exactly.
But you know what I mean. Like, it's one of those, like, a lot of people couldn't, and you can, because it's just one of those that you deeply love and appreciate so much that it doesn't scare you necessarily.
And there's so much deeper stuff to it that I barely see the horror. Like, the horror is that fast to me.
Yeah.
It's everything else.
Right. Exactly. Well, happy birthday again.
Thank you.
And I hope that we're having fun on the beach.
Me too.
Thank you guys for joining us for this little special bonus episode. It was kind of funny that both of our birthdays aligned on a Friday this year, so they just
really cool.
fit perfectly into our extra episode Friday spots.
Next year we get stupid Sundays.
I know. I turned 30 on a Tuesday.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
I get a Friday. That's a pretty good one.
You do. Like, I've got a couple years before I turn 30. I think it's like 2022. But I'm really pissed off about that already. So I'm just going to have to take Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday all off. So thank you again for joining us for like the third millionth time that I've said that. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Exorcisters Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at the Exorcisters. We have a website. If you don't know, you can find that, all of our podcast episodes there on exorcisters.com. And if you want to talk about Cabin in the Woods, we are super down to hear it. What did you think? Because I think it's a pretty divisive movie.
Oh my God. I would love to just discuss this movie.
Well, theexorcisters@gmail.com.
Please, you guys. I'm ready. And next time, we're actually on our last horror movie review of the year.
Holy
Can you
shit.
believe it? And then we're on to 2020.
And we have a schedule ready, you guys.
Oh my god, and it's going to be a great schedule. We are so excited. I mean,
We're going to be working
oh my god.
so much. Like, double the movies almost.
I'm just going to comment, next year is 100th year of horror. That's pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And we're ready. We're so excited.
Yep.
But next time, a relaxing Christmas vacation turns into a terrifying fight for survival. Till then, stay creepy.